The Great Depression was a time of tremendous hardship in the United States, although this time of struggle in the U.S. affected other countries worldwide. It lasted from 1929 to 1939. One factor that helped cause the Depression was the Roaring Twenties. During this time, the economy was prosperous, although many wages were low and farmers were struggling to make a living because of lowered food prices. Also, the stock market was rapidly changing and most stocks were expensive. Many people bought items with credit instead of using their own money. This increased consumer debt. The way of life during the 20s impacted the future. Another major event that sparked the start of the Great Depression was the stock market crash of 1929. On Thursday, October 24th, many concerned stock investors sold their shares in companies. This trend continued until finally, on Black Tuesday, the stock market crashed. This event plunged America into the Great Depression. After this crash, many Americans panicked and hurried to banks to withdraw their money. Banks could not return money because they had invested their money in the stock market, and when it crashed, everyone's money was lost. This caused many people to lose their life savings and delve into poverty. The impacts of the Great Depression were extreme. After the crash of the stock market and bank failures, people were scared to buy products or they didn't have enough money to. In direct result of this, product production slowed down and companies had to fire their workers to keep their business running. People who still had jobs faced reduced wages. Also, a lot of Americans had their homes repossessed and were kicked out onto the streets because they could not pay their mortgage. At the height of the Depression, 15 million people were unemployed. Overall, times were hard all around. During the Great Depression, there was an apparent gap between the rich and the poor. Even after the stock market crashed, the upper class still retained much of the wealth which they had received before the Great Depression. The rich did not suffer from unemployment and would even flaunt their wealth to the poor class. The poor class had to suffer. There was a high spike in unemployment, which was more than 14% from 1931 to 1940. More than 15 million people were unemployed and struggling to make ends meet. Luckily for the poor people, the New Deal regulations were passed and helped many get back on their feet. Still, there was much tension between the two classes, especially during worker strikes. There have even been violent points, such as the Memorial Day massacre in Chicago that left people dead on both sides. The entirety of the 30s was spent with tension between the rich and the poor classes.
This is the part during the Dust Bowl, what happened during the Dust Bowl and all the dust flying around and on people's farms and such. This was like a Hooverville in which people had to live in because they didn't have enough money and they had to just bring together different parts to make houses. And this is like free soup for the unemployed because they had to make donations to them because they didn't have any money or any savings to like help get them food for their families. And then this area is where the rich people are. They're kind of in a safe area and they're just above everybody else because they have money and they're allowed to prosper basically.